Welcome to the Catastrophic Comeback Podcast with American injury lawyer Clark Speaks, helping you find hope, purpose, and joy after a catastrophic injury.
Yeah, he said, basically he said, I'll give you 2 weeks and you'll be back to it again.
Right.
And I thought, he's right. If I don't make serious changes. So that weekend, I went one after another and broke up with all my rowdy friends and told them the direction I was going to be going. And here again, to see God's actions in that period. That very next week, a man that I knew who was a deep Christian, was a Sunday school teacher. He came and invited me to his Sunday school class. And I thought, that's my next step. So that next Sunday, I went to church. I got there early because I wanted to make sure I got to the right place. And there was this beautiful girl. I remember seeing her walking up the stairwell, and it was a one that turned, and then I saw her coming up toward me. Most beautiful girl I'd ever seen in my life. And I thought, I've got to get to know her, which turns out it was the first time she had ever been to that church. And so she got there early as well, and that was Jan.
Oh, wow.
That was how we met.
And then now y'all have been married almost 50 years.
Yeah, well, it'll be 49 years in September.
Wow.
So it was really
that was an eventful couple of weeks.
That was amazing.
Yeah,
yeah, it was a really completely life-changing. Now, don't think that it wasn't without struggles. I mean, there was one period of time where I briefly got back into drugs, probably 3 years later. And of course, there have been other things that went along with that lifestyle that I struggled with probably for, really about 20 years off and on, that some of these old struggles would come back. And that's sort of how it works, though.
Yeah.
Life, it's not like you just suddenly change and you're forever changed.
Well, we've seen this, we've all seen this diagram or whatever that shows your plan and is sort of linear.
Yeah.
And then we show the reality that's like all over the place and
Yeah.
all these obstacles you got to go through and all. Now, you mentioned that your friend died at 15, so that's some of what we deal with in this podcast. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Randy was one of the best people I knew. It was actually a snow day. We'd been snowed out. It was in February, early February. I was 10th grade. We were 10th grade, so I was 15. And I'll be 70 this month, so do the math. It was 55 years ago about. And I got a call that from another friend who said that he had died. And I really don't remember much more about the next few days because, like I say, we were close friends, used to spend the nights together. That really started a downward spiral for me that went on from then until it was almost 4 years, I guess. Almost 5.
Now, did you grow up in the city, in the country? Or?
Out in the country. I'm a country boy.
Yep.
Grew up on a farm. And he was on a different farm working. It was in a farm accident. He got caught in a feed auger. And, of course, medical care was not nearly as quick then. It took them a couple hours, I think, to get him free, and then they took him to the hospital. And, nowadays, if you get carried to a hospital in an ambulance, they've called ahead, and you're going to be swept right in. Well, in this case, his dad had taken him to the hospital and was sitting in the waiting room, and he died in the waiting room.
Oh, that's horrific.
So and that sort of added to the bitterness for me, too. That I felt like God had failed me. I felt like the medical system had failed, and so it was.
So you had a strong faith coming into that. That was your foundation.
Yes,
I guess.
I did.
Growing up in the church.
Yeah, and
see
it was
something like this.
Yeah.
See something like this where you see a good person, and
Yes.
that always makes you go, "Why this guy?"
Yeah.
There's a million jerks out there.
Yes.
And then why this guy? You know, and that leads us to the really the fundamental essence of this segment, which is to me, okay, if God is so great, and God knows everything, and God is powerful, then why does he why does this happen to Randy?
Yeah.
It would, how easy would it have been for him just to go, okay, Randy, pay a little bit extra attention on this time.
Right.
Okay, let's give you a little fever today so you don't go out in the field, or let's
or let it just not snow that day and you'll go to school.
A million little things.
Yeah.
So how do we reconcile that? How do you reconcile that with your faith? How does a God who loves us and has the power to prevent human tragedy and human suffering allow the Holocaust, allow warfare, allow children to get killed and terrible things to happen?
First of all, let me say that I've never gotten what I would call a full answer to that question. I have learned to live with some of the uncertainty that comes around it, because I don't know that we're ever going to have full answers to all those questions. Philosophically, though, when I think about why would God let that happen, or why didn't God intervene? At creation, and this sort of hit me one day, and I don't know how long, it was many years ago, it hit me, said, let us create man or mankind in our own image, and then we're going to let him rule. In other words, he sort of placed us in charge. But he did it knowing, apparently, because God has foreknowledge, he has foresight, he knows. So why would he create a world that could be so filled with chaos and hatred and all the other negative things? But then I got to thinking about it more, that God did not create us as automatons. He created us as a living soul. And if you're going to have love, real love, which is what I think he was after, then there has to be the possibility of hatred. If hatred isn't a possibility, then you really can't have love. And also, why does he allow allow evil? Well, if there isn't evil, is it even possible for there to be genuine good?
Joy, pain.
Exactly. So that's sort of a big picture answer, is that without chaos, you wouldn't even see order. Without hatred, you probably couldn't even recognize love. So God wanted creatures that he could have fellowship with, that he could love. So if the possibility not to love him does not exist, then I don't think you can have real love.
Where does free will fit into this?
When God created mankind, created the world, put us all here, in order to be able to have loving humans, there had to be free will not to. So I just think without free will, there's really not even a possibility of love. If he programs us where we're just going to be love creatures and that's all we do, then is it really love? We're just automatons. We're a robot. But that's not what he wanted.
Right.
I think
and also we don't have the same experience that we would have now.
Yeah.
Like you do something good and you feel good about it. You do something bad and you feel bad about it.
Yeah.
And so I think we all have, richer, fuller, incredible opportunities to have these wonderful, rich, fulfilling lives and impact others.
Yeah.
And the only way that works, now that you mention it, is if we have a capacity to do harm.
Yeah, exactly.
So let me ask you this. Now, with respect to, when you say that free will plays a part in it, and you admit, you and I had talked last night in preparation for this, and one of the things that you said that I thought was fascinating is you talked about how God gave us dominion over the earth, and the idea would be that we would, have that responsibility and have that capacity to do the things that we should do, and also, I guess, if you have that capacity, you have to do the things that you shouldn't do. So can you talk to me a little bit about what you were thinking there?
The capacity to love has to have, I think, for it to exist, has to have the capacity to do the opposite. I think about Jan. The reason her love is so special to me is because there have been a few times when I have given her a good reason to hate me. But she has made the decision to love me in spite of it. And so I think that sort of goes along, and so she had the free will at that time. She knew fully well. I mean, there have been a couple of times where if she had said, Dana, I'm done, we're getting a divorce, especially early in our marriage, I wouldn't have blamed her. And I think that's one of the reasons her love is so special to me now.
Sure.
Is because she could have, and yeah, I'll be honest with you, there was a couple of times where if I were to have been a counselor and she had come to me and said, this is my situation, I'd said, you got to leave that bum. It's just, that's what you need to do. But she chose not to and stayed. And so I think that sort of goes with God too, you know. He's looking for a people who will freely love him, even though they have the options not to.
Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next time.